It was early January, and the world outside my window lay swathed in layers of crisp white. The stark contrast between the winter's chill and the warmth of my yoga space was striking. At 39, I often found myself reflecting on how far I had come since the divorce. My ex-husband's jealousy had been suffocating, and the decision to leave him 3 years ago had been a liberation. It allowed me to find myself again, to reclaim the peace that had been buried under years of control. That afternoon, as the soft notes of instrumental music filled the room, I moved seamlessly through my yoga flow. My body felt strong and youthful, a far cry from how I imagined I'd feel approaching 40. It was my son, Adam, who often remarked on this. "Mom, you don't even look close to your age," he'd said one evening. His tone light but sincere. 18 now, Adam had grown into a striking young man. An athlete with a naturally commanding presence. He carried himself with a maturity that often caught me off guard. Sometimes it was the subtle things. His compliments, the playful teasing, the way he fixed things around the house with such confidence. It was hard to reconcile this young man with the boy I had raised. As I folded into a deep stretch, I heard the familiar thud of Adam's footsteps in the hallway. "Hey, Mom," he called, stepping into the room. I glanced up, smiling as I straightened. "Back from practice already?" "Yes." "Yeah, coach ended early." He leaned casually against the doorframe, his athletic bag slung over one shoulder. His gaze swept the room, lingering briefly on me in my yoga stance. "You're really good at this, you know." "Years of practice," I replied lightly, brushing a stray lock of hair from my face. "It helps me stay grounded." He grinned, setting his bag down. "Grounded and flexible. You put the rest of us to shame." I laughed, waving him off. "Go shower, Adam. You're probably freezing after being outside." As he headed to his room, I couldn't shake the sense of pride I felt. He had grown up so well despite the upheavals we'd faced. Yet, there was a complexity to our interactions lately, a subtle shift in how he carried himself around me. His compliments felt weightier, his teasing more deliberate, like he was testing boundaries he wasn't sure existed. That evening, as we sat down to dinner, Adam surprised me with a question. "Do you ever regret it, Mom? The divorce, I mean." I paused, fork hovering mid-air. "No," I said carefully. "It was the right decision for both of us. Your dad and I. We weren't happy together. And being in an unhappy marriage isn't good for anyone." He nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. "Get that. I'm glad you're happier now." "Thank you, sweetheart." I reached across the table to squeeze his hand, a small gesture of gratitude. His fingers closed around mine briefly before letting go. We fell into an easy rhythm after that, the conversation flowing from his school plans to his latest training regimen. He had such determination, and it was inspiring to watch him pursue his dreams with such vigor. Later that night, as I was cleaning up, Adam came back into the kitchen. "Need a hand?" he asked. "I've got it," I replied, but he joined me anyway, drying the dishes I rinsed. We worked in companionable silence until he broke it with a quiet, almost hesitant question. "Do you ever think about starting fresh? Like, finding someone new?" I stopped mid-motion, turning to look at him. His tone was casual, but there was a flicker of something deeper in his expression. "Sometimes," I admitted. "But it's not a priority right now. I'm focusing on us, on building a good life together." He nodded, seeming satisfied with my answer. Yet, as he set down the last dish, I couldn't help but notice the way his gaze lingered just a little too long before he turned away. That evening, as I finished wiping down the counters, Adam came back into the kitchen. I thought he'd gone to bed, but instead, he approached me with that easy confidence that always seemed just on the edge of playful. "You work too hard, Mom," he teased, stepping close. Before I could respond, he leaned in and kissed me on the cheek, his lips warm against my skin. "Good night," he murmured softly. It was such a simple gesture, yet it lingered in the air long after he'd left the room. I stood there for a moment, hand resting on the counter, my heart unexpectedly unsettled. His kiss wasn't new. He'd always been affectionate, but something about the way he'd lingered felt different. More deliberate, more aware. The next morning, the house was quiet as I rolled out my yoga mat, the early light streaming through the windows. As I moved into my routine, the familiar rhythm of stretches and poses steadied my thoughts. Yet, I found my mind drifting back to Adam's smile, the way his eyes seemed to hold unspoken thoughts. "Morning, Mom." His voice startled me, breaking through my concentration. I glanced over to see him standing in the doorway. His athletic frame relaxed but his gaze sharp. "Good morning," I replied, straightening up. "How'd you sleep?" "Not bad," he said with a shrug, his tone casual. "You're always up so early." "Habit," I said, smiling. "Yoga helps me start the day right. You should join me sometime. It could help your muscles recover from those intense workouts." Adam raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "Yoga? I don't know, Mom. You make it look easy, but I'm pretty sure I'd be terrible at it." "Everyone starts somewhere," I encouraged. "Come on, give it a try tomorrow. You'll thank me when you're less sore after practice." He laughed, running a hand through his hair. "All right, you've convinced me. But if I pull a muscle, it's on you." The next morning, true to his word, Adam joined me. I handed him a spare mat, and we laid them out side by side in the living room. He was dressed in a fitted t-shirt and shorts, his toned body a testament to his athleticism. Yet, as we began, it became clear that flexibility wasn't his strong suit. "Breathe in, stretch up," I instructed, demonstrating a simple pose. Adam tried to follow, but his movements were stiff and hesitant. "See," he said, grinning as he wobbled. "I told you I'd be terrible." "You're doing fine," I reassured him, stepping behind him to adjust his posture. My hands brushed his shoulders as I guided him into place, and he turned his head slightly, meeting my gaze with a warmth that made my breath catch. "Thanks," he murmured. His voice was low, his tone carrying more weight than the words themselves. I quickly stepped back, returning to my mat. "Okay, let's try something simpler," I said, trying to refocus. Yet, as the session continued, I couldn't ignore the way Adam's eyes kept drifting to me. He wasn't subtle about it. Whenever I demonstrated a pose, his gaze lingered, his expression unreadable but undeniably intent. At first I tried to dismiss it as curiosity. He was new to yoga after all, but there was something in the way he watched me that felt almost intimate, like he was studying more than my movements. "Adam," I said at one point, half laughing to ease the tension, "you're supposed to be focusing on your form, not on me." He smirked, unrepentant. "I am focusing. You just make it hard to concentrate, Mom." His words, casual on the surface, carried an undertone that made my cheeks flush. "Well, try harder," I said lightly, turning away to hide my reaction. Yet, as we continued, his compliments didn't stop. "You're so graceful," he said as I transitioned into a warrior pose. "I can't believe how strong you are." "Flattery won't get you out of doing the poses," I shot back, though my voice wavered slightly. "It's not flattery if it's true," he replied, his tone serious now. "You're amazing, Mom. I don't think I tell you that enough." Paused, caught off guard. His words were heartfelt, and the sincerity in his voice struck a chord in me. "Thank you, Adam," I said softly. "That means a lot." He nodded, his gaze steady, and for a moment, the air between us felt charged with something unspoken. I quickly moved into the next pose, trying to shake the feeling, but it lingered, a quiet undercurrent I couldn't ignore. By the time we finished, I was more flustered than relaxed. Adam, however, seemed completely at ease, stretching out on his mat with a satisfied grin. "That wasn't so bad," he said, propping himself up on one elbow. "I might actually like this." "You did great," I admitted, rolling up my mat. "We can make it a regular thing if you want." "I'd like that," he said, his voice softer now. His eyes met mine, and for a moment, I felt the same unsettling awareness I'd felt the night before. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was there, a quiet shift in the dynamic between us that I wasn't ready to name. The next morning I found a gift box neatly placed next to my yoga mat. My first thought was curiosity. Who could have left this? When I opened it, I was pleasantly surprised to find a set of yoga clothes inside. A pair of bright red leggings with elegant mesh inserts and a matching top. The fabric was soft to the touch, clearly high quality, and the bright color immediately caught my eye. Inside was a note, written in Adam's unmistakable handwriting. If you do yoga today in these clothes, I will join you again. Deal. I couldn't help but smile. Adam had a knack for thoughtful gestures, and it warmed my heart to see him so interested in something that was so important to me. The idea of sharing my yoga practice with him was exciting. After all, he was always physically active, and it seemed like a great way for us to bond. Later that morning, I changed into the outfit he'd picked out. The sneakers were snug but comfortable, and I couldn't deny that it gave me an extra boost of confidence. When Adam came downstairs, he stopped halfway, his eyes lighting up with approval. "Wow, Mom," he said, smiling. "That looks even better on you than I thought it would. Are we doing this?" I laughed and waved him to the mat. Let's see if you can make it." We started with simple stretches and warm-ups. Adam, being an athlete, quickly realized that his natural agility and strength shone through. However, when we moved on to poses that required more flexibility, he struggled a bit, and I couldn't help but tease him. "See, yoga isn't as easy as it looks," I joked, holding tree pose while he swayed slightly on one leg. "Okay, you won this round," he admitted, laughing as he regained his balance. "But don't be too cocky. I'll be on top of this in no time." We moved on to pair exercises, trust poses where one person supports the other. These were my favorites because they required teamwork and shared attention. Adam and I easily synchronized our movements, creating a natural rhythm. The experience was more enjoyable than I had expected, combining effort with lots of laughter. "Okay, let's try stretching your partner," I suggested, sitting back to back with him. We linked hands and leaned gently toward each other, creating a counterbalance that allowed for a deep stretch. "It's actually a bit relaxing," Adam said after a moment. "I didn't expect yoga to be this enjoyable." "That's the idea," I replied, smiling. "It's about connecting with your body and mind. And," I added playfully, "it's about learning to follow the instructor's instructions." He laughed. Message received. When we finished the session, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. It wasn't just about yoga or fitness, but about the connection we had fostered. Adam's interest in joining me felt like a bridge that brought us closer in ways I hadn't realized I had lost. As we rolled up the mats, he smiled at me sincerely. "Thanks for letting me do this with you again," he said. "That was fun." "Anytime," I replied, playfully ruffling his hair. "But next time I'll push you harder." He smiled. "Deal." After we finished yoga, Adam stood in the kitchen, his easy confidence evident in how naturally he moved around the space. "You've worked up an appetite," he teased, pulling out a pan. "What do you want for breakfast, Mom?" "Name it." The thoughtfulness of his question caught me off guard, though by now, I should have been used to his innate kindness. Smiled. "How about something simple? Eggs and toast would be lovely." "You got it," he said with a grin, already cracking eggs into a bowl. His movements were fluid and sure, and for a moment I found myself marveling at how much he had grown, not just physically but emotionally. He had stepped into a role I hadn't expected, quietly filling the spaces left by his father, offering a steady presence I had come to rely on. Breakfast was delicious not just because of the food, but because of the warmth Adam brought to the moment. His teasing jokes, the way he made sure my coffee was just how I liked it, it was these small things that stayed with me. After we cleaned up, Adam turned to me, his enthusiasm infectious. "Let's head out for a jog," he suggested. "To the lake in the woods. It's been ages since we've gone there." The idea was tempting. The lake held fond memories for both of us, a place we'd visited countless times when he was younger. "All right," I agreed. "But I'm warning you, I'm not as fast as I used to be." "Don't worry, I'll take it easy on you," he teased, grabbing his running shoes. The crisp winter air nipped at our cheeks as we jogged through the familiar forest trail. The path was quiet except for the rhythmic crunch of our shoes against the frosted ground. Adam kept pace with me, occasionally glancing over to make sure I was okay. The lake came into view, its surface shimmering under the pale winter sun. We paused to take it in, the tranquility of the scene wrapping around us. "Still as beautiful as I remember," Adam said, his voice softer now. "It really is," I replied. "I'm glad we came." On the way back, the conversation flowed easily. We talked about his future plans, his training, and my work. I wasn't paying attention to the uneven ground, and before I knew it, my foot caught on a hidden root. Pain shot through my ankle as I stumbled and fell to the ground with a sharp gasp. "Mom!" Adam was by my side in an instant, his concern evident. "Are you okay?" I winced, trying to move my foot, but the pain was sharp and immediate. "I think I twisted my ankle." He crouched down, gently examining the swelling that had already begun. "You can't walk on this," he said firmly. Without another word, he scooped me up into his arms, his strength making it seem effortless. "Adam, you don't have to," I began, but he cut me off with a determined look. "Of course I do," he said. "We're too far from home for you to manage this. Just let me take care of you." Being carried like that, secure in his strong arms, was a strange mix of emotions. I felt vulnerable yet safe, the pain in my ankle dulled slightly by the warmth of his presence. For a moment, I was reminded of how he used to insist on carrying my bags as a boy, eager to prove his strength even then. "You're really something, you know that?" I said softly, looking up at him. He glanced down, his expression warm. "And you're the toughest person I know, Mom. You always have been." By the time we reached home, I felt an odd sense of gratitude, not just for his help, but for the bond we shared. He set me down gently on the couch, quickly grabbing a pillow to elevate my leg. Then, without being asked, he retrieved an ice pack and a glass of water. "Dr. Adam at your service," he said with a grin, his humor easing the tension of the moment. I couldn't help but laugh. "What would I do without you?" "You'll never have to find out," he replied, his tone carrying a sincerity that made my chest tighten. As I rested, Adam stayed close, keeping an eye on me while he went about his day. It struck me how naturally he had stepped into the role of protector, a constant source of strength and care. And in that moment, I realized just how much I cherished these small, seemingly ordinary moments. They were the kind that reminded me of the depth of our bond, a connection built on trust, love, and the shared understanding that we would always be there for each other no matter what. That evening, Adam insisted on making mulled wine. "You just sit back and relax, Mom," he said as he busied himself in the kitchen. The way he moved with such confidence and ease, selecting spices and slicing oranges with precision, made me smile. When he brought the steaming mug to me, the aroma of cloves, cinnamon, and citrus filled the air. "Taste test," he said with a playful grin, handing me the mug. I took a sip and closed my eyes to savor the flavor. "Adam, this is amazing," I said sincerely. "You're a master at this." He laughed, sitting down beside me. "I've got a few talents up my sleeve. It's about time you noticed." We both chuckled, the warmth of the drink spreading through me. As I sipped, he glanced at my ankle, which was propped up on a pillow. A flicker of guilt passed across his face. "I'm sorry about the run," he said, his tone softer. "If I hadn't suggested it, you wouldn't have gotten hurt." "Don't blame yourself," I replied quickly. "It was an accident, and I'm just glad you were there to help me." He nodded, though he still looked a bit guilty. "Well, I'll make sure you're taken care of. Anything else you need?" "Honestly, this mulled wine is more than enough," I said with a smile. After a few moments of quiet, Adam reached for the remote. "How about a movie?" he suggested. "Something to take your mind off things." "Sounds perfect," I agreed. He scrolled through options, finally settling on a light-hearted comedy. As the movie began, Adam adjusted the blanket over my legs and made sure I was comfortable. His attentiveness was endearing, and it reminded me of how thoughtful he'd always been, even as a child. Midway through the movie, I leaned my head against his shoulder without thinking. The gesture felt natural, a quiet expression of the comfort and trust we shared. His cologne, a subtle blend of cedarwood and spice, drifted faintly in the air, adding to the cozy atmosphere. It was a moment of calm, where the world outside didn't matter, and we could simply enjoy each other's company. "You doing okay?" he asked, glancing down at me. "Better than okay," I replied, smiling. "Thanks to you." He chuckled softly. "It's my job to take care of you, Mom." The rest of the evening passed in a haze of laughter from the movie and the soothing presence of the person I cared about most. Despite the earlier mishap, it turned out to be one of the most peaceful nights I'd had in a long time.